please. Please silence all. Please silence all cell phones and electronic devices. When speaking, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and speak loudly and clearly. Thank you. Item number 1 is approval of the agenda, and before we approve the agenda, I would like to amend the agenda by removing item number 4. I make a motion to do that.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you. Then, item number 1 is approval of the agenda. I will make a motion to do that.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. We have 2 seconds, okay. Item number 2, approval of the meeting minutes from December 17th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Very good. Passes 3-0. Item number 3, approval of claims. I call on Shane Albrecht for that, please.
Currently, we have 6 claims on our thing, and I'll go through them each one by one. Goldberg Group Architects, we have a claim for $656.10. That's just a reimbursable expense. We have 3 bills from Frederickson and Byron Law Firm. First one is for $9,445.42. The next one is for $10,161.12. And the final one is for $14,584.82. And we have 2 bills from Baker Group, one for the month of November and one for the month of December, each of them for $32,013. Our grand total of those bills and claims is $98,873.46. If there's any questions on that?
No.
None here.
I'd move approval.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Item number 5 on the agenda today is information and update on the LEC, and again, I'd call on Shane Albrecht, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a number of people, distinguished people here. We have John Malloy from the IT department. We have Stacy Macfield from the court, and we have the sheriffs. Do you have anything on the LEC, any of you, that you'd like to update us on and problems or concerns that you're having?
No, I don't have any.
Sheriff, are you good as,
Yeah, I'm good.
you're good, John?
I'm just here to learn.
Okay.
So.
Are you okay, Chad, as well?
Yeah, I think we're good unless you want to have me discuss anything we talked about this morning with the.
If you would like to talk about like the numbers and stuff and some of those things, Chad, please. Thank you.
I wasn't sure if that was like an invitation to actually speak or like just an invitation but don't speak. So I was trying to read the room. So as of this morning, we have 41 federal inmates. That number is not as high as what I would say I would like it to be, but it's not because we're not prepared to get them. It's just a matter of the marshals working to get the inmates moved where they need them moved and get inmates into our facility, that number has steadily been it's been slowly increasing, and we anticipate that it will continue to go up. I did sign some documents last week to add the North Dakota district to our IGA, the intergovernmental agreement with the marshals, so that we can now start taking the inmates from the North Dakota marshals. They're anticipating a number somewhere around 40 or 50, and that hopefully will start happening in the next couple of weeks. As you know, as I said, our real target goal is to get north of 125, and as long as we can do it safely and in a manner that's progressive in nature, and we can't just jump from 41 to 140 in a week, but hopefully we'll continue to work towards that number and get there. The sooner we can get there, obviously, the better for budgeting and everything. But I think our number was around 270 total, right in that neighborhood this morning at 6 a.m. So things are going, as well as can be expected. Any questions from any of the authority or?
Thank you so much for the
Yes,
update.
thank you.
Corey Metzger, would you like to come up to the stand, please? Sure. The podium, I'm sorry. Would you please introduce yourself for anybody that hasn't met you before?
Sure. I'm Corey Metzger with Resource Consulting Engineers, a mechanical engineer. We've been helping identify and address some of the issues with the building.
So currently, I got Corey here. Great thing happened today. Keith Oberding from Cornerstone showed up today. So Corey and Todd, after this meeting, will go out, kind of talk with Keith, meet with Star Controls out there as Keith's getting started. Keith has already started on Air Handler 1 and addressing some of the items and starting to look at doing his stuff for his reports. He's going to have all of his reports will be available to us live. He has a blue ribbon. I was going earth cam. There's blue all kinds of things, but blue ribbon that he'll be loading everything up, so it's a live document as he's testing everything. You're seeing the reports and seeing what he's doing. It has already began this morning. So that is actually on schedule as we thought it would. I will be here till Friday the 24th, and we hope that's about the completion of that commissioning stuff. So about 2 weeks, and then there'll be the corrective measures and stuff from there.
Do one of you guys just want to talk about generally what we talked about last time with the equipment getting reset to where it's designed and just generally a little bit on the commissioning process? If Corey wanted to give input, he could on that.
Sure. I'm going to give a little bit on the reset thing. So we've been working since we met last to get everything put in per Introba's design. So everything, when the commissioning agent was here to evaluate, was put back to where it was supposed to be per the design. So we got that all, it's pretty much put to where it's been designed. Corey, so then if you would walk through the commissioning piece, I'll interject.
So the commissioning team, Cornerstone Commissioning, Keith Olberding is their project manager, will go through the system components and control sequences and make sure that they are operating as intended per the original design. We know that there were some areas where they weren't for some time, so his job is to be able to dig into that programming and those components in more detail than maybe we can as design engineers. He's got a background in controls and service, so.
So we've already got him a computer access, so he's able to test these things and take them through all their paces and watch what it's doing inside the controls programming and the tuning and stuff. You can make sure that it's tuned correctly. So he's going to evaluate air handlers 1, 2, and 3. To evaluate air handler 3, because it's on the roof, he'll be doing that next week, and he'll bring a second person so he can put the unit into test and have that person with the gauges up there monitoring. You will also be checking 100% of the fan power boxes to make sure they're performing as they're supposed to be. And Kenny's been working, I think he started right after the first of the year, putting lists of areas that might have been cool out there and stuff. So for his 25 to 30% of the VAV boxes that he's going to test, Kenny's identified problem VAV boxes and areas that we're having concerns, so he's going to test those to try to get that up to speed. Corey has been just amazing at his help that he's provided us and stuff. We'll also tell you the 3 areas where we had trouble with heat that we approved last time to do unit heaters. Those have been ordered, they have arrived, and next Monday they will start hanging them. So we got through that. Corey was able to work with Suter and find ones that were in stock in Omaha, got them shipped, they're on site except the control valves. So I think that's going to be handled in a very timely manner and be completed.
And so this is the work we directly contracted with Suter, so that's good. That is going along. The commissioning agent, we directly retained, and that is moving along. So, and we have Corey here, so all of those are things we can control, and those are moving along.
So right now we have Thank you, Corey.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
We've 180 items have been identified as warranty items. Of those, I think 143 have been complete, Todd? 148 have been complete. 21 of them have happened since our meeting on December 17th. So since December 17th, we've had 21 more warranty items brought forth. We've had 82% was the completion percentage of the warranty items. We have a couple big hurdle ones coming up. In the first part of February, working with Building Services and Kenny, we will be replacing the pucks on the Vesda system. Now, the Vesda is a fire alarm system that has tubes that go in and feed it in the jail area. Sheriff and Chief, I may have forgot to tell you that. The pucks are finally here, so we can do all that replacement. That'll happen in February. That's behind the cells. It is a long process, but it's behind the cells and not in your way. So apologize for that, not telling you about that this morning.
And those are a manufacturer recall.
It's a manufacturer recall. They had a bad batch. They're literally, I call them pucks because they're literally round plastic circles like this. They were breaking and causing alarms, and they're all being replaced. Again, no cost to the authority whatsoever. It's just like a recall on your vehicle. It's a bad part, they replace them. Now there's 160 of them, and there's programming that has to be involved. So it's not a quick fix thing. Work with Kenny and stuff, but Todd will be with them the whole time in the month of February while we're getting that stuff fixed, okay? Just for people asking and how this is all going, okay? Kenny, can I get you up for the update as well? We've been working, I think, pretty well together with back and forth for everybody's knowledge, but any major problems you're seeing and any major concerns you have to let the board know about that I didn't talk about?
Other than your 120 to 123 or 121 to 123, we had a couple new events this morning. One was a boiler issue that we've already identified, and if you want to speak to that, that's fine, Shane. But other than that, no other major issues. Just a lot of the same old issues with warranty items and getting Hausman on board to try to get them done. And assist us in doing that. And it appears to be a struggle for some reason, but hopefully we'll get there.
What Kenny's talking about, we had two boiler failures. One failed on Monday, one failed today. The boiler, unfortunately, the exhaust from boiler 1, boiler 2 blew into the intake on boiler 1. It condensated and froze. We've got to get that stack extended on boiler 2 so the exhaust isn't blowing in there.
And that has to do with the wind that we had.
Yes. And it froze, but when it froze, it broke open enough of it that it could still continue to suck and actually collapse the ductwork on the intake side. So Suter will be getting that fixed as well, but we have this ductwork's kind of smashed right now on boiler number 1, on the intake flue.
Sure.
We got a great thing. Corey identified the free stats had more adjustment than Suter had said they had, and Andy was able to get those adjusted and sent those things out, so we should hopefully have less free stat issues. Yes, sir.
I did think of another item that just for the board's information we might want to talk about. And that's with, I guess we don't exactly know what's causing it yet, but that's with the heaving out in the driveway outside the Sallyport
Sure.
and the sheriff's entrance, if you want to speak to that.
Sure. So out north of the vehicle Sallyport, okay, the driveway slab has heaved up to about 3/4 of an inch down to nothing. So the whole slab, and it's a large slab, so we're talking 50 foot of concrete. So at the one end, it's 3/4 up, and it tapers all the way down to the door to be back to being flush. Again, that has been identified as a warranty item and will need to be corrected and fixed. Just to keep you in the loop on that. To stop any tripping hazards or anything like that, can you set out some cones? Because that is where we release people or people would be coming in. Or moving snow, don't want somebody to hit that, because it would cause a vehicle to stop very quickly. Any other questions?
And on that concrete, I mean, for much of the time they were building out there, it was so dry that it, you know, they're bound to be something somewhere with the concrete, you know. But
And this happened to actually be in an area that seemed to always be pumping water and stuff out there, and you know how much problems that is.
Yep.
It did have compaction, and CTS did test it. I want everybody to know it did have that. It's got another issue, whether that's a bunch of moisture that was underneath it and caused it to heave.
Sure. You talked about the warranty. Where are we at on the roof and the prairie fire and final completion?
Sure. So right now, the roof, didn't get any better updates. I will tell you, Hausman came, and their working on the roof is extremely disruptive to people working inside the building. So we told them if they make too much noise, they're doing this only on the weekends, and they should have already been done. They did come Thursday of last week, and it looks like they got finished. We have not got an update yet. Todd, you did not either, right? I have not got an update that they got done, Mark.
Because didn't they originally say they only needed like
2
a
days.
day or two to?
Two.
And
we-
they've done how many days?
So their 2 days turned into, they were there still on Saturday that week. So they came Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then they just messaged Todd Tuesday night of last week and said, hey, we're gonna be back tomorrow. The coldest day we had to work on the roof, and we said, no, you're not coming without more notice, because you can't have the sheriff's office or the courts disrupted by somebody banging on the roof on one of the coldest days of the year. Seismic bracing, there's a meeting tomorrow with Entroba, GGA, Hausman, to try to get that all wrapped up. And that meeting's at 3 o'clock tomorrow, so the meeting has been scheduled, Mark.
Okay.
Sorry, you asked a third question. Try to do them one at a time.
Oh, final completion
Sorry.
certificate.
So, right now, to get final completion, we're hoping to have that, having that by the end of this month. Items that have to be completed to have that, let's just do it that way. Roof warranty, okay? Which they should supposedly be done with, but we have to see that warranty. The seismic bracing that they have in the meeting tomorrow at 3. There is a hydronic pipe on the roof that's not strapped down correctly. That's RFI 603, and that's been answered with a solution provided to get that accomplished. Test and balancing concerns. Corey has sent his response, and we're still trying to get that meeting. I do not have that meeting set up yet. Those are the major things there. Everything else, Mark, like the grass and the ruts and stuff, we're just gonna offer a settlement amount and just write that off on the final completion certificate.
And the suitor was doing the test and balancing?
Design, Balancing Professionals was doing it as a sub to Suter.
Oh, okay. And we're just waiting for a final report on that?
We have a final report. Corey's asked for some things because right now exhaust fan 1 and exhaust fan 3 have some areas that don't meet the design, correct?
Correct.
So there's some corrective measures that need to happen there.
On
There's a
those exhaust
dispute
fans?
about- Yes, worrying about duct leakage in there before. Remember, we talked
Yep,
about
yep.
smoke testing and different things like that, that.
Now
is-
you think you pinpointed it more towards those two exhaust fans?
There are two key areas that we're specifically concerned about. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to have you come up to the mic so we can record.
Yeah.
Sorry, Corey.
No, you're good. There are two key areas we're concerned about. Exhaust fan 1 has an area, it's at the far northeast area that is served by that fan, so it's the intake space. There are a number of spaces both on the north and south side of intake that are short on exhaust airflow, in some cases significantly enough that it causes concern. And then we've got some cells in the jail area that appear to be short. And it's not a dramatic number, but it's enough that we're trying to get more verification that we've got the correct flow. There are also some overall airflow issues with some of the with the two exhaust fans over there. We just want to validate that we've got the right flow occurring with those fans.
So then my gut tells me that Entroba's got their hands on this somehow. That's maybe gonna horse us around or not.
So we provided comments and feedback on the balancing report with some recommendations and sent that to Entroba. And they were going to take that and provide an updated response to the balancing report, which I think is what Shane's indicating has not been received yet.
And how long ago did we send them, or did you send them your comments, Corey?
I don't recall the specific date. It's been,
December 19th.
okay, Shane recalls the specific date.
And on December 19th, because we knew Atroba was going to be slow, we sent that on to Suter already, Corey's comments. We just don't have the document updated with Atroba. Atroba's always said they were going to update the document to make it easy for everybody, and they have not done that yet.
Have you heard anything out of them as far as the timeline on getting back to that, Corey? I think, sounds like you're about the only one that can maybe talk to any of these people.
I haven't heard anything, but I can certainly reach back out to them. Happy to do that.
Well, I appreciate you working with them because I don't think I could. You know, but I think we've eclipsed a year that you've been serving us and on these Entroba issues, and it's kind of a hard thing to swallow, and I thank you. We would be lost on this project without you, and you've done a lot of work, but it's, you know, when you hear that word a year, right? A year that we've been, over a year for them, you know, just a year with
Sure.
you, over a year with them, when you hear that, it just is so demoralizing. And I'm hoping that, so I reach out and see if they can nail them down on something.
Certainly, will do. And I do feel, for what it's worth, that with the commissioning process that's just getting started and some of the progress we've made in the last few months, that we're much closer to the end goals than we have been for some time. So I think we are making good progress, just been much slower and in some cases more frustrating than desired.
I don't want to have to go to Mr. Schaefer's house, but if we have to knock on the door and ask, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Fair.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Todd just got an update from Caleb on the roof. White Castle is done with the roof, and the inspection is set for Tuesday of next week.
Very good.
Any other
That's
questions?
very good update. That's all I have for you, Shane.
I think that's it. Thank you, Shane Albrecht. Item number 6 on our agenda today is public concerns. Seeing none, we move on to item number 7, authority board member concerns. None here.
And I'll allow Chad, and he can come in and chime in on this too. I'll put him on the spot, but I'm sure we saw the KTIV story last night about the inmate that broke in at the mobile home park across the street. And so I've been getting calls from upset constituents and just, you know, it's a delicate situation. And one of the things that I get, and Chad could share this, is, you know, some of the things that have been said is, well, why can't you force these people to give them a ride here, or, you know, make them do this or make them, and I think you were quoted in the article, Chad, as saying that these are, when they're released, they're free. You know, they are free individuals, and they are, you know, and so there's only so much that we can do. And, you know, Dan, and I'll let you talk in a second if you guys are still looking at transportation, a bus or a voucher system, or what your, you know, homework. I think you and Matthew are working on that. But at the end of the day, when these people are free, they're free. I mean, we can tell them what's best for them, but you guys can't physically make them stay or give them a ride somewhere or drop them off somewhere. It's their choice. So I'll let you, with that, I'll hand over to you if you want to make a comment.
Yeah, once they walk out the door, they're not an inmate. They've been accused of a crime. We do what the courts ask us to do as far as housing them or whatever is required. If they post bond, they're out. They're, just as you said, they're free. I think, I mean, if you ask me that I'm surprised that something like this has happened, no, I'm not surprised that something like this has happened. But I think I certainly had started communications a couple years ago, and I don't know where it's at, but yeah, once they walk out the doors, there's nothing really that we can mandate them to do. But if there isn't an option for them,
Yeah, for sure.
I think, things can happen. But once they're released from our custody, they're free to go about their business.
And I believe you said at an earlier authority meeting that you and your guys have been very accommodating if they need to stay a little longer, if they need a phone call to catch a ride or something like that, that you've worked with those.
We've had several that were released in the morning and were still out in the hallway at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon, and trying to accommodate, getting them wherever they might need to go. And after hours, they can stay in the vestibule because the vestibule is open. You can't get into the building, but they're at least in a protected area. I don't think it's not where we want them overnight or anything, but it's, I don't want to be adversarial, so
Yeah.
I think it's frustrating for everybody.
That's all I want to comment is that, we don't have, when they're in your care, they're in your care. But outside of that,
Yeah,
whether
if they're
it's
in the
county,
jail,
the
they're an
city,
inmate.
you,
If they
it's-
walk out the jail, they're a citizen. They're free to do what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And they have constitutional rights that, we can't infringe upon those rights.
Dan, have you had a transportation meeting? I know, last I think you said you were looking at the Potawatomi voucher system. I didn't know if you learned anything about how that program works or.
Well, we did, and we are looking at different options. Certs we struck out on. What I don't want to have happen is the public have a view that once we get public transportation in place, that these events won't happen. It's a public safety measure that the county, the city, all of law enforcement needs to be mindful of so that these incidents won't happen. It's very unfortunate what happened at Lake Forest Mobile Home Community. And if we're going to walk people to the public transportation, I'm not trying to be cute here, but if we walk them and get them on board, that's one thing. I don't think that'll happen. And I think they are free to go when they're released. So it's like everything else in our community, it's public safety. Things get broken into, things happen. We have to do a good job of policing and be prepared for that. Because we have not only residents near the law enforcement center, we'll have businesses. And so there's a combination there that we need to be mindful of. But we're still looking at options.
Okay. Because Potawatomi is kind of similar to us in size as far as their
Yes,
facility and everything, aren't they? They're kind of.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with Councilman Moore. You can have all the transportation readily available. It doesn't mean that they're gonna
Yeah.
make the right choice and take it. So, but having an option for them makes it easier for them to make a better choice. I think we could all agree on that as well.
Yep, for
So
sure.
I think that's the goal, is to, again, you're correct.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're going to make the right choice. And it's like, people are shocked to hear that there's fights in the jail or that they don't, do what they're told. Well, there's a reason they're there.
Yep.
But again, they have constitutional protections that once they're out of our custody, we can't, there's things that we can and can't do. And we want to keep the public as safe as we can. Certainly that's my responsibility, is to try and keep them as safe as possible. But the other part of my responsibility is to ensure that people's constitutional rights are not trampled on. So it's a balancing act. If we can give them an option, I think that's safer for everybody. But he's correct. It does not mean that they will always choose the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
The other point I want to make is Matthew Long has been very helpful with information that we needed because the numbers are quite low, quite surprisingly low of those that might choose to take public transportation. And I need to ask Mr. Bittinger, who's now the chairperson of the Woodbury County Board of Supervisors, whether I should take up those discussions now with you, Dan, or whether I should continue with Matthew for a while. At some point in time, and the reason why we were able to have these really good conversations with Mike Collette, myself, and Matthew Long, is I said, let's talk about scheduling. Let's talk about who the people are that are going to take the public transportation needs. Let's put finances to the side for now, because that'll really get us all flustered. And, you know, there'll be some discussions about that, but let's do that later. Let's see what we have right now. And the Sheriff's Department has helped with the numbers as well. And those numbers, I think, will probably increase, but right now they're fairly low.
Sure.
So we'll want to continue those discussions. Mike Collette was looking at a couple of options that he didn't really want me to publicly speak about because he's not real sure that they could happen. And so I'm just waiting patiently on that. We should know within the week, but we are going to keep moving on this.
And that's an interesting point, Dan. Chad, do most of the inmates have rides? What because they get a phone call, right, that they can try to arrange?
Yeah, and I mean, and we're assisting them in getting and making contact with whoever. I heard the chief and I were giving a tour to the new board members and the newly elected auditor today, and I think, if I remember right, the chief said that probably 8 out of 10 have a ride
Sure.
to go somewhere. The one thing that I was going to say is, as we increase the numbers with the federal inmates, they're not going anywhere in our
correct.
community.
Correct.
So that increase of inmates will not affect
I'm glad you clarified
these
that,
numbers,
Sheriff.
because those people are not getting released. I mean, I shouldn't say none of them. There are some that may be pre-trial, that are held pre-trial for our local federal
Yes, yeah.
courthouse. They could possibly get released, but that's happening every day wherever. If there are other people being brought in from other areas, those people are either pre-trial in either in Cedar Rapids, or they're maybe in the Southern District, or they're in North Dakota. They're not going to be released from our
Sure.
facility. And the ones that are post-convicted, they would only be in our facility awaiting placement in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So they won't affect those numbers. The only thing that would really increase those numbers is if our local state population were to rapidly increase, which we haven't seen that so far. I mean, it's gone up a little bit, not significantly. But yeah, most people have a ride. I mean, that's why they're getting out. They're getting bonded out. They've got a ride. So most of them do.
And that's what I was gonna have, because you talked about before, facilitate, helping them, with phone calls, whatever, but I don't think we'd ever talked about what percent had a ride, so that's good to know. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I just heard the chief say that number earlier today.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure he's correct. I have
I won't hold you to it.
nothing that would say it's any higher. That's probably just a good estimated guess. At least 80% of them have a ride.
That's why I'm thinking if we stay within the city limits, I'm hopeful the voucher system, at least initially, could work. I'm not sure how we budget for that and what the cost will be, but that's something we need to look in, because it seems like the numbers are pretty low right now.
Is that I missed
Like-
part
like
of
with
it,
a
like a
cab-
voucher with cabs, or a voucher with bus, or
Yeah.
a voucher with?
With cabs, probably.
Okay.
Because right now, to have a bus line coming up just to the law enforcement center would be very costly for the numbers that we would be looking at.
Well, yeah, I mean, if
Well,
you're,
but remember, you're talking about a small percentage of the people who would actually use a bus line coming out to the law enforcement center. You've got jury trials last week where there were 125 jurors. Some of them may take public transportation, as they're called, to perform a jury duty. Or you got caught shoplifting at the Walgreens downtown. They may be taking public transportation. Many of the people who, utilize the old law enforcement center, not just the jail, but I'm saying the court system of the law enforcement center were walk-in traffic. Many of them were walk-in traffic. I think most of them, if they have to come out to the new law enforcement center, will probably be taking some, I mean, they're not walking from downtown.
Right.
Especially not, I mean, maybe in more, summer months, but they're certainly not walking out there in December, January, February, and March. Maybe it's a seasonal route. I don't know.
And we've discussed the jury system, and right now, we don't have any statistics on it. And I don't know if you ask if people have, how did you get to the law enforcement center? Do you ask them that? Unless they say something to you like, it took us forever to get out here because we didn't have public transportation.
I don't know if they keep track of that, but when they fill out the jury questionnaire, it asks how many miles they have to travel to get there.
But it doesn't
But not the
describe,
method.
though, the method that they use.
Well, it's for mileage reimbursement.
Oh, for their own mileage. So if they take a cab, can they submit that in as a,
Might be a trick question.
okay. So some of the statistics we don't have, Sheriff, and I think you
Sure.
appreciate that.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no,
And that's what we
yeah.
want to work on.
Yep.
And the voucher system might just be temporary until we get more numbers and can work something out.
Yep, and I think, I know I was at one of the meetings and the chief had brought up, a voucher system where if it's a county arrest and a county, if the county sheriff's office arrests the person, that the voucher may come from the county funds. If it's a city arrest, then the city would, then provide that voucher to them. And as you might guess, the overwhelming majority of arrests that get brought into our jail and then released are city arrests. And I mean, we could look back and get a number, but I would guess it's probably 75% or more are city
Oh, do you
arrests. Yeah,
I think it's that high.
sure. If not more, if not higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that
So-
answer some of your
Yeah, no,
questions, Mark? Yeah.
this has all been very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Chad. That's all I got, so.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Item number 8 on our agenda today is closed session with Frederickson and Byron Law Firm under Iowa Code Chapter 21.51C. Motion to move into closed session.
I'll move it. Or did you make the
I
motion?
made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're going to second it? Okay, we've got a roll call vote, please. Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're into closed session.
So we're gonna go to a closed session.
If we